Hey there folks, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and this, it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. So am I the only one who feels like this year has just felt like an extended cool down from the chaos of 2018, where it felt like the chart was facing upheavals nearly every other week? Now, of course, some of that stability on top has to trickle down, but some of it feels rooted in a summer that feels increasingly listless and bereft of impact releases, true album bombs to really shake up the charts. Yeah, we got a couple songs from Chance the Rapper here this week off the album release, but not the tidal wave we would have seen last year, just worth pointing out. But you know what, on the topic of stability at the top, when we flip to our top 10, it looks like Old Town Road by Lil Nas X featuring Billy Ray Cyrus has cemented the claim on the #1 record with another week there. Still entrenched with streaming, sales, and YouTube even as the radio collapses. And I gotta wonder where the margin's gonna start cracking first, cause I'm not sure Bad Guy by Billie Eilish has it. Sure, she's right behind on streaming and handily winning on the radio, cementing her position at #2, but the gap on YouTube and sales is only widening, which probably isn't a good sign. I still think the biggest contender is Señorita by Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello at #3. Yeah, it took a little bit of a hit on streaming and YouTube this week, but the sales are still solid and the radio run it's having is genuinely impressive. And right behind it is Truth Hurts by Lizzo up to #4, which actually has better sales and radio, but just can't quite muster the same streaming and YouTube just yet, although it is close. Hell, she blew right past Talk by Khalid at #5, which seems to be hitting its peak on the radio and might signal a pretty steep decline in the future. Unfortunately, it does not get better from there, because as I predicted last week, No Guidance by Chris Brown featuring Drake rode the viral video up to #6. The radio and the sales, they aren't quite there in the same way, but when the streaming is this robust, I'm not sure they care. It handily moved past I Don't Care by Ed Sheeran and Justin Bieber at #7. Sales and radio might be holding better than I expected, but with little else it's vulnerable. Then we have Goodbyes by Post Malone featuring Young Thug at #8, which has the radio traction and enough sales to be a contender, but those streaming numbers are a bit concerning. And Sucker by the Jonas Brothers at #9. Radio's in free fall, it's gonna be gone fast. And that takes us to our only new entry in our top 10 at #10, Ransom by Lil Tecca. Wait, what? Are we honestly giving a top 10 hit to this? A glassy bit of nasal disposable trap that apparently is riding a video and little else? I don't even dislike this so much as I question why something so utterly generic and forgettable in this lane that is clearly riding off production more than content has gotten this high. And yet, knowing my luck, it'll probably wind up sticking around, so I'm not even gonna pretend to guess with this one. Who knows how long it's gonna stick around. So let's switch over to our losers and dropouts. And I can't be the only one a little bit shocked by how many relatively big songs left the Hot 100 this week, especially some that I was not expecting. Now, some definitely clinched their year-end spots, like Mill Child by J. Cole, Con Calma by Daddy Yankee and Snow. I'm not dignifying that Katy Perry remix, so no with that. And Act Up by City Girls. But then we got some that are either borderline, like Rumor by Lee Brice, or just missed out entirely, like Girl by Maren Morris, and Sanguine Paradise by Lil Uzi Vert. And as for our losers, most of them are either debuts from last week or they just kept on losing. In the former category, we saw How Do You Sleep by Sam Smith slide down to 40, and sadly, The Archer by Taylor Swift down at 79. While in the latter case, we had Rodeo by Lil Nas X and Cardi B went to 72, Nightmare by Halsey crashed #100, and Ed Sheeran saw losses for Antisocial with Travis Scott at 78, and Cross Me with PNB Rock and Chance the Rapper at 77. Odd, I thought that Chance's presence this week might have given us a bit of a leg up. And the only other worthwhile loser was Cool by the Jonas Brothers, dropping even further. I'm not complaining. Now, our gains and returns list is significantly smaller here, and also significantly less good. I'm not surprised to see NF nab some returns for Time at 67 and The Search at 86, but why exactly is What If I Never Get Over You by Lady Antebellum back at 99? More alarmingly, when we look at our gains, why is Nashville pushing I Don't Know About You by Chris Lane to 73? I might not like The Ones Who Didn't Make It Back Home by Justin Moore, but I at least get some of its run at 51, but swapping out Lee Brice for Chris Lane is just just asinine, or more evidence that Curb doesn't know what they're doing pushing Lee Bryce. But the big story comes from Otro Trego by Sek and Darrell, which got a massive remix with a bunch of other forgettable reggaeton acts to shove this all the way up to 34. I'd say I don't expect it to last, but I know none of us are really that lucky. Anyway, let's move on to something that, at least to me, is a little bit more interesting. Our new arrivals, starting off with number 95, Do You Remember by Chance the Rapper featuring Ben Gibbard.
The summers all lasted forever.
So given that I'm among the folks who actually kinda like that Chance the Rapper album, I'm a little bit frustrated that the majority of my favorite songs missed the Hot 100, but of the few that made it, this is probably the best. The glistening, elongated echo of some of the chipmunk tones lends them a bit of texture and actually makes them surprisingly tolerable, and they play well off of Ben Gibbard's more sedate but slightly warning tone and how he ends his hook on a minor key, which is an interesting contrast to the come-up story that Chance meanders through, seeing success and realizing that in comparison with the fatalism that he used to ponder, now he actually wants to take that longer view, an opportunity that he knows through the ending of the first verse is not afforded to all of his city of Chicago. It's more meditative and a little bit unsure. Again, not quite one of my favorite cuts from the album, but it still does really come together if you pay attention to the details. So yeah, pretty good song. Check this out. Number 94, All Day Long by Chance the Rapper featuring John Legend.
Baby, all day long.
The opening track of the album, and admittedly for as exultant as John Legend is selling that hook over the ramshackle percussion and the pulsating bass, along with some of the keyboards and the guitar touches, the tune just never quite clicked with me as much as I'd like. I wish the melodies had a bit more focus. And yes, some of this I do place on Chance himself. Some of the comparisons he tries to make on the first verse feel kind of forced, even if he seems so damn grateful that he got the length of success and time ahead of him. Something that he's also keenly aware might not be for those who denigrate him, and where he could have been, well, the same as them. But I think some of the larger problem is that it starts at full force and doesn't quite hit the effective crescendo as strongly as it should. Maybe a little bit more restraint and some of the percussion could have allowed this to truly take off at the very beginning. That's all I'm saying. But still, you know what? This is a decent enough song, but there are better tracks from the big day that should have charted. That's all I'm saying. Number 89, Daddy by Blueface and Rich the Kid.
Louis, Gucci, Fendi, Prada, with no strings attached like Balenciaga.
Let's be honest, did anyone have expectations of this? One rapper who raps off beats, the other has trouble filling up bars, neither of which has much to have anything interesting to say. Should it be any surprise that it's not good? And if there's a song that might finally put to bed Blueface is intentionally trying to be offbeat, to be avant-garde or weird or something, it should be here. If anything, it seems like he just doesn't care about where the beat even could be and is relying on personality to just carry through it all. Kind of unfortunate, because then Rich the Kid tries to imitate a lot of what Blueface is doing, and it only highlights the real shortcomings in that approach. Now, to say this, the piano-driven production isn't that terrible. I'm left thinking that Blueface, if he wanted to be weirder, he would embrace weirder production instead of just pulling on a thin interpolation of Tatiana. But again, the content is just not all that interesting, as these two will buy their girls a lot of brand names, which is very different than no strings attached to sex, Blueface, and I'm fairly certain your obnoxious personality here would mean that nobody would want to fuck you otherwise. Probably be offbeat there too. It's just sneering and unpleasant, and the novelty is long worn off of this. And even with Rich the Kid riding Blueface's questionable coattails and saying the girl's actually too wet in bed, that's interesting. I can't see this lasting. It's pretty bad. Next, number 85, Leave Me Alone by NF.
Quiet, yeah, leave me alone.
See, I'm not gonna complain about NF notching a song this week. It looks like he's gonna ride some impressive sales on the Billboard 200 for that new album. Good for him. The problem is that with every song he charts from this album, I just find myself frustrated that he's not more interesting. Yes, Leave Me Alone, it's a little bit better with the reverb-saturated smolder, the strings, and that really pulsating, hammering hook. And I honestly don't mind the darker symphonic bombast behind the end of the third verse. Kind of reminiscent of Meek Mill a little bit. But am I the only one who just can't able to see some of the irony in him using balloons, black balloons, as a metaphor for the weight on his soul, because normally balloons are lighter and they can be freed with little issue. Kind of telling there. But there's also little moments that feel kind of off here too. The mixing feels a little bit too blown out and a lot of shouting for its own good. A weird choice for a song trying to play up some of the antisocial impulses. Then you get the feeling that for as much as NF says he obsesses over lines, how many filler bars will pack every song of his, and how on his third verse he admits a call to fame and says that the song might suck. And while I like how he's self-aware of how he's cultivated his fan base and release strategy, I gotta wonder if the undercooked, antisocial vibe will just turn folks off in the long term. There's just not that much here. As it is, look, I am trying to like this, but the tonal dissonance between the content and the execution, it's throwing me off. Really, not sure if it really works at all. Number 82, Living by Dierks Bentley.
Yeah, some days you're just alive, some days you're living.
So it's been a while since we got any new singles off that last Dierks Bentley album that was a nice enough return to form with some really damn solid songs, and this is not one of the better ones. Seriously, you have How I'm Going Out, or One Way, or Stranger to Myself as options, and yet you go with this? I'm not gonna call it bad. Dierks Bentley's more textured vocal tones are always welcome. The hook that ditches the clunky programmed hand clap for real drums, it's good, even if it feels like the cymbals are a bit too loud. And there's some decent guitar smolder to the hook, but it feels lyrically undercooked and a little too sedate to match how it's trying to soar so much. After all he's really doing is living day to day without any serious hardship or struggle, and yet the music's trying to sell so much more than what we actually get. It just feels really oversold, and thus winds up a little tepid for me. Not bad, but with the wealth of better songs on that album, could have skipped this over. Number 69, Takeaway by the Chainsmokers and Illenium featuring Lennon Stella.
I am not here to stay, I still want your heart. You have for takeaway.
You know, maybe it's on me that I keep trying to shove the Chainsmokers to the back of my mind. I've been trying to do this since at least 2017, but I keep being surprised whenever they notch surprisingly good chart positions with another song. This one with EDM producer Illenium and one half of the pop country duo Lennon and Maisie, which you might recognize from the TV show Nashville. And yet I would not expect anything close to country on this, because while there is an acoustic guitar behind the hook and some actual surprising electric guitar sizzle behind the pre-chorus, along with some keys on the first half of the hook that I kind of like, you're still gonna get your fried out, stuttering Chainsmokers drop with the vocal fragments integrated into it, and I'm so sick of those by this point. But I'm still left with questions here. If Andrew Taggart's gonna sing on this song, why not at least try for some real interplay with Lennon Stella instead of just layering them on top of each other? And why does this song still rely on manipulative sentiments and how affection is still desired, even if it's never gonna work? He wants to leave before he loves her. And why do you choose to describe said affection as takeaway? Like you're picking up your takeout from Chinese or the pizza place. Way to emphasize the disposability of everything here, so why should I care again? Granted, at this point I'm not remotely surprised by the Chainsmokers just playing into these sentiments. They've been doing it for years. I just wish they were doing them far away from the Hot 100 where I don't have to hear their non-charisma in describing it. So yeah, this isn't good. Next, number 64, Single Again by Big Sean.
Better off friends, maybe I should just focus on me. Slow down, don't rush romance.
So full disclosure, by titling this song as Single Again, Big Sean seems to be clearly writing about his breakup from Jhené Aiko, no matter how coy he's trying to be about it and not bringing a lot of details. On an analogous note, I'm entirely on her side in this, and Big Sean has a real uphill battle in trying to yank me over, so when I heard both uncredited vocals from Ty Dolla $ign and Jhené Aiko on this track, I was thrown for a loop. And on that note, when you realize that even though Jhené doesn't have a writer's credit, it appears that she's definitely rubbed off on Big Sean for this song at least, not just in the distinctive piano-touched R&B tone with some more elegant arranged touches around him, but also in the content, I was even more surprised. For one, I actually like the fact that he's trying to reflect on his own life, on where he went astray and made selfish decisions for the wrong reasons, from the backpedal of I Don't Fuck With You that was originally intended at Naya Riviera 4 years ago, and yet he's not going to that place now, to how he wonders whether the fractured relationship of his parents had rubbed off on him. And while I'm a little bit skeptical of DJ Khaled being a good advisor in any capacity, if it was that Big Sean needs to focus on himself, slow things down, and focus on his internal balance instead of on drugs and other women, yeah, that's just mature and smart. And when you also realize there's no obvious cornball references or punchlines, and that Big Sean's melodic touches reflect a little bit more of Janae's influence in a good way, I can't help but really like this. Holy shit, if Big Sean somehow grew up, that next album might be way more interesting than I was expecting, because this is really damn solid. I like this song. Nice work. Number 58, Hot Shower by Chance the Rapper featuring MadeInTYO and DaBaby.
Tangerine, yeah, I call it sweet and sour, and my lawyer say it's urgent, I'ma call him in an hour.
And here we have the song that to so many people trying to let Chance win them over on the big day, this was the breaking point. And let's make this clear, it's absolutely a weaker song on the album. The trap beat sounds really cheap as all hell and bereft of melody. MadeInTYO's Playboy Cardi impression is not good, and Chance's goofy-ass staccato flow and references don't really match up with anything. But on the flip side, it absolutely has the feel of someone high as all balls careening through stupid references until his girl calls him over, especially with that second verse, which I still think is actually kind of funny. And DaBaby seems just as horny and scatterbrained on his verse, where he questions if he's still tricking if he gets the girl a shitty car when he buys a good one. He then dresses up as a Republican in order to get head from a white girl, and yet wonders if he's only fulfilling this role and doing these things because it's a cultural stereotype. This is America, after all he says. Which makes you wonder whether or not Chance intended the song more as a parody of this sort of trap music than playing it straight. A very childish Gambino of him. But why this song is included on a wedding album, though? Yeah, even giving this track some dubious credit, it's not all that good. I don't think it's terrible, but I get why people are giving Chance the side-eye because of it, because it ain't that good. And finally, number 39, Gold Roses by Rick Ross featuring Drake.
They let her wait till it's too late. It's too late. Yo.
So apparently we're getting a new Rick Ross album in a couple of days. And I'll be honest, I really could not care less. Even if Rick Ross has improved significantly as a technical rapper since I reviewed 2 albums of his in 2014, even if I think his descriptive abilities have improved and he can still pick some good production, he's kind of warmed on me a little bit. I can't help but find a lot of his material really lacking in dimensionality, and that's hard to stomach for a project that's over an hour long. And even when we get Drake stepping up to help here, I'm not really all that impressed with this. Both men are reflecting on opulent successes, but a lingering feeling of emotional emptiness in the face of conflicts that we're not seeing. But especially with Drake's verse, I'm left with the impression that truly interesting or vulnerable moments, they're being ignored or sidestepped for future ambitions that still feel kind of nebulously defined. I understand that part of this is the lingering shock of Nipsey Hussle's passing and the reference to reaping success while they're still here, something that's always been in Drake's content, even going back to the very beginning. But it's not like there's much of a sense of danger or paranoia permeating the songs that would spark any sort of revelation, which leaves the platitudes being discussed feeling kinda thin. I just don't buy into them in the same way. Now for Rick Ross, I'll give him credit, it actually feels a little more solid. A lack of recognition or critical appeal does sting for him, especially in this life. But then the choice to double down on the flexing and the opulence and the wealth, it has the same inert feeling that Rick Ross is trying to inspire deeper emotion that's just not all that connecting or relatable. And I don't think the production helps. The Lennon cascades of keys over a spare trap-infused clunker with chipmunk fragments. There's no sense of groove or a focal point to really sustain a song that is comfortably over 5 minutes. And yes, I get this is more intended as a brooding song, but if I don't feel like there's much genuine introspection or challenging vulnerability or even really stark wordplay or punchlines, I'm just left kind of cold on it, which is sadly where I fall on this. I respect the attempt to try and get a little bit deeper, and I'm a little surprised it charted this high, but when it feels this inert, I'll stick with a song like Money in the Grave. That sort of collaboration, it actually hits. Sorry. But that was our week. Weird notes to end things off on a bit of a weird week as a whole, but the best and the worst, they fall out pretty quickly. For the worst, honestly feels like a bit of a toss-up, but Daddy by Blueface and Rich the Kid is probably the most inept here, with Takeaway from the Chainsmokers, Illenium, and Lennon Stella as the dishonorable mention. Now for the best, you know, when I started this week, I thought Chance the Rapper would have this on lock with Do You Remember with Ben Gibbard, but it's only getting the honorable mention, with the best going to Single Again by Big Sean. Yeah, I'm as surprised as anyone, believe me. This one caught me off guard, but in a great way. Now, next week, see, I have no idea. We got a slow release schedule in terms of albums, so it might come down to what crashes the most on the charts and what falls away and what comes up to replace it. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.